The following is a paid program brought to you by My Philly Lawyer. The views and opinions expressed are those of the sponsor and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the station and its management.
Good morning. Court Radio is now in session. Call 215-227-2727. When you've got legal questions, we've got the answers. This is Court Radio. And now here's your host, Dean Weitzman.
Good morning and welcome back. It's Court Radio and I'm Dean Weitzman. And this is your chance to ask your legal questions one at a time. We'll do our very best to answer them. What you need to do is give us a call at 215-227-2727. It's the same number for My Philly Lawyer. If you've got legal problems, you know the guys at My Philly and women at My Philly Lawyer can certainly give you a good helping hand. And all you need to do is give them a call at 215-227-2727. But on Sunday mornings, that number is for Court Radio. And that gives you the opportunity to ask some legal question that's been nagging at you. Let's talk about some stuff that's in the news. Guess what, folks? We might be seeing a SEPTA strike sooner than later. The SEPTA has authorized a strike. The workers have authorized management to strike if they're unable to negotiate a successful contract before November the 1st. So they could strike on November 1st or any time thereafter. So start making plans, Sam, to get to the office or wherever you have to go without SEPTA, which kind of dovetails into the other story that was hot off the presses today, and that is that Uber and Lyft are one step closer to being legalized permanently. See, they had like a 2-year interim license. Well, that has been extended by the House, and I think they're just waiting for the Senate's approval in Pennsylvania for Uber and Lyft to operate in Philadelphia. So I think we're going to need Uber and Lyft a little bit more, and anybody else who can help to fill in the gaps caused by the SEPTA strike. So we wish you the best of luck getting all around the city during that time. We've all lived through multiple SEPTA strikes. It's a fact of life. 215-227-2727. I see the phone starting to light up. People calling with questions already. Well, let me introduce you to somebody you know, our very own Irina Shiloh.
Good morning, Dean. Good morning, all of our listeners.
Wow, you've got your tongue is twisted already, and we haven't even begun.
Yes, I apologize.
Irina is the woman at My Philly Lawyer who's going to handle your domestic relations problems if you are going to have the firm represent you. So, and she usually operates out of our Northeast office, but she can see you in the Northeast office or Center City. All you got to do is give us a call and schedule your appointment. But for today, we're going to talk all things domestic relations. And in that regard, we're going to kind of kick it off looking at what's going on with Mary J. Blige's case. She's recently been in the news because she had a prenup. I want to find out what that is. And her hubby is trying to break it so that he can get paid. Guess how much? $129,000. And I think that's, although it doesn't say it here, I think that's probably a month.
Oh, it doesn't say per month?
Yeah, I don't think it does say per month. But $129,000. See, you can, and that's in spousal support. Let me say that. So when you begin the process, Irina, of getting divorced, whether you're the husband or the wife, you file a complaint in divorce.
Correct.
Okay. And now, available immediately, at least in Pennsylvania, upon the filing of the divorce, is this interim spousal support.
It is if you file for it, which is not difficult. The spousal support has a formula that's applied, which is if you don't have minor children, it's 40% of the difference in the net incomes. If there are children, then it's 30% minus child support, or if there's more factors that need to be examined, then more or less it's that figure. So you get close to half, or if you don't have any children. Basically, it means if you have not worked and your spouse has worked and continues to work, then you can continue to live the same as he or she.
Let me tell you, folks, what this means in real dollars. Let's just say that you're the wife and you're making $75,000 a year, and you've got your husband at home who's making $50,000 a year. Okay, and you've been married for 6 months, and poof, things go bad, and you file for divorce. Okay, you start scratching your head saying, what was I thinking 6 months ago? I'm insane, and this person, I cannot tolerate them any longer. Get out of my life. That differential between your salary, $75,000, young lady, and your man's salary of $50,000, that difference of $25,000, you're going to have to pay him 40% of that, okay, or $10,000, so a little under $1,000 a month, until the divorce is finalized, even if you've been married for a few weeks. Yes?
Yes, that's true. And some divorces can last really long.
Oh yeah, if you want to fight about the divorce, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've seen divorces 9, 10 years. They're still fighting over stuff.
Correct. And in fact, in Pennsylvania, if you have not been, if you're separated for 2 years, you can get the divorce. But if you're not, you have to wait 2 years unless your spouse consents. Although I've heard that they're changing that law to 1 year. But it's still 1 year of spousal support, and if the difference in incomes is more than $25,000, you have to pay that, even if you've been married for 5 minutes.
Think about that. You're married for, weeks or months. I mean, it was a bad decision. It's, but you're going to have to carry that 40% of the difference until the court signs a divorce decree. That is unbelievable. It's unbelievable what a windfall that is to the underperforming spouse.
Correct.
Wow. 215-227-2727. So in Mary J. Blige's case, he makes nothing and she makes gazillions. And so his support needs, based on that formula, I believe, is $129,000 a month. But she had a prenup. Shouldn't that protect her?
It should. And his argument is that he was not represented by an attorney at the time of signing the prenup. Now, if this were in Pennsylvania, based on Pennsylvania law, if they would go to court, they would examine what happened during those 2 days. Chances are he would not be granted his argument. What he wants is to just say, I didn't have a lawyer. Well, you didn't have a lawyer, but you had a brain. You decided that you wanted to marry the successful woman, and she probably thought, I'm not going to marry this guy unless he signs this prenup. So chances are there have been some negotiations happening prior to the 2 days before the wedding date. So there's no law that says if you don't have a lawyer, your prenup is not valid. He would have to be introduced to the prenup would have to be introduced to him on the wedding date, basically, and he would have to be drunk and stoned for it to not be valid.
There you go. So the courts are in favor of enforcing prenups.
They are.
Yeah, they're not going to toss them aside willy-nilly, but it does help to have your spouse have representation in that process.
It does help. It has to be drafted nicely to provide for all terms. It has to explain well that you really mean it. You're not under duress. You're not under any type of blackmail, so to speak. And it's not a blackmail to say, well, she wasn't going to marry me if I didn't sign the prenup. That's exactly what prenups are for. So And it helps to have a lawyer. I don't know why he didn't have a lawyer, but it's not an excuse.
Really, and it's I would fault Mary J. Blige or her team of representatives, because what you do is you take the spouse that you're intending to marry and you give him an attorney, okay? And that attorney's job is to represent him, and he reviews the document with him before he signs it. So you don't leave it to happenstance whether your future spouse is going to be able to get representation in a timely fashion. You arrange it.
Yeah, I also don't like that it's only 2 days prior to the wedding and he didn't have an attorney, so it does sound like something was off. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, like come on. How much time did you plan on getting married? Was it months and months? And if so, why was that contract provided to him 48 hours before?
Right.
So I don't know. There's a lot of facts that have to come out in order to understand this in its entirety. But at least the framework for the possibility of overturning it is there, just based on kind of the time sequence.
Maybe he knew about the agreement for months before, but he just signed it 2 days prior to the wedding. Plus, I don't have a lawyer doesn't really hold water, because what does it mean to have a lawyer? Just because a lawyer didn't represent you and sign their name on the contract doesn't mean you didn't consult with 6 different attorneys, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So we'll see how that develops. But, in ordinary people, maybe you don't want to get a prenup. But if you don't, and things don't go well, and your spouse makes a lot less than you do, you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay that spouse for their spousal support, no matter how long you were married. Because people think about spousal support or alimony, and they think that you have to be married for a long time in order to be obligated to pay alimony. And that's true for permanent alimony. But for this temporary support, pending the actual divorce being signed, you don't need to be married at all for more than a minute. You could just be married, walk down the aisle, and then turn around and collect your support payment.
And prenups also decide in advance what you're going to do with the marital property. A lot of people call and say, we don't have anything, I just want a simple divorce, when in fact they have retirement accounts, and that is marital property, and that complicates things already. Or they have pensions, or they have real property, real estate, and they think if it's in her name or his name that it doesn't belong to the other spouse, but it actually does. Depends on when it was purchased and who was contributing to the mortgage, if the property went up in value. So a prenup would really make things easier for people who are divorcing. But it would we would have less work, which means you should have a prenup, because you're just filling the pockets of divorce lawyers if you don't have a prenup.
There you go. Let's talk to Rob from Havertown on line 4. Hey, Rob, welcome to Court Radio.
Hey, good morning, Dean. How are you? I love your show. I've been listening almost from the beginning.
Thank you so much. In fact, stay on the line, Rob. You're going to get a T-shirt for that compliment.
Great.
You see, I'm easy to satisfy. You give me a little compliment, I'll give you a T-shirt. So hold on after we're done talking, and Monica will get your address, okay?
Great. Thank you.
All right, Rob. What's up on your mind this Sunday?
My car, I was in a minor accident back in May. I took it to an auto body shop. I had the proper insurance and everything. They fixed the car. I got it back a month and a half later. Now, probably the end of September, I've been hearing this noise underneath, like in the suspension when I, move and or brake. I took it back to them. They said they were going to take it back to the body lineman shop, straighten it out. They did that. Got it back a week later. It's still there, and the problem is even worse now. When I talked to them again, they said that they're going to have to try and get my insurance to reopen the case. But if they don't, then I'm on the hook for whatever the problem is.
Right.
And I don't understand that.
Okay, well, I don't know what the problem is. So that defining what that problem is the first step. And I would suggest going to a new place to get an opinion, a diagnosis of what's wrong with it, because you're going to need to prove, in order for your insurance company to open this claim back up and give you what's called a supplemental payment, you're going to need to show your insurance company that whatever's wrong with the car was caused by the accident. Well, you may know that in your heart. You're not a mechanic, and you need to get a mechanic to prepare a report for the insurance company so that they can clearly see that it's related to the original accident. Once that happens, getting it opened up with your carrier shouldn't be a problem. And if they don't, then you can always take the step of having to file a small claims complaint against your own insurance company if they continue to refuse to pay you for what is a legitimate cost associated with your accident. But first, don't assume that it's from the accident. Get somebody to put on paper what is wrong with my car and how was it caused by this accident.
Okay. So the original body shop is really not on the hook to do any more than they do. So I should just get this info right.
Exactly. I mean, I think what the body shop is telling you is that this is some new problem that surfaced that we're unaware of that's related to your accident, was caused by the accident. But for all we know, the body shop that you went to originally may have made a repair to the car and done it improperly. Or maybe they used a part that failed. Or, there's a gazillion reasons what could be wrong with your car. It just might be because your car is old and it's starting to have problems. So I'm not sure if it's the accident. I'm not sure if it's caused by the original body shop. And that's why I say maybe getting a second opinion from a new body shop. What's wrong with my car and why is it related to this accident?
Okay, and I can take that info to my insurance carrier.
Yes, then you just call your insurance carrier and tell them you need to get a supplemental claim. And in fact, they might want to see the car at the new body shop that you go to.
Okay, then great. I just wanted to make sure I'm not on the hook for any finance.
At this point, the answer is unknown until we get an absolute confirmed opinion on what's wrong with the car. Rob.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dean.
Thanks for listening, brother, and stay on the line. Monica's going to get your address.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hold on. 215-227-2727. Let's talk to Stoned from the airport. On line 4, Eric. We got Stoned. Hey, Stone? Hello? Line 4, Eric. Hold on. Technical problems. Stone. I'll give you the... No, he's not there. Folks, if you've got legal problems, calling 215-227-2727 during court radio usually gets you in to talk to me until they have problems with their board. And then you might be talking to somebody else, somewhere else. Let's go back to Irina. So, prenups are good. Most people don't get them. They don't think they need them. You could get a very simple prenup that just deals with this issue, this alimony, this temporary alimony issue, yes?
Yes, you can put whatever you want in your prenup. Literally, you can decide what to do with your dogs and cats, what to do with your income, what to do with your house or car, 1 car, 5 cars, whatever you want to put in the prenup, so long as it's illegal. You can't have any drug distribution deals in your prenup.
Okay. You can't have any drug distribution deals in your prenup?
No.
Okay. So it's got to be legal stuff. But you can limit it just to this support issue.
You can.
You don't have to worry about if you don't have property and you're not worried about property, or you want to share property. If you do acquire property during the marriage, if that's not a problem. But if there's a big disparity, that's what should be the key here. If there's a big disparity between your income and your spouse's or your future spouse's income, you better think about this issue on support. Because if things don't go the way you hope they would, then you're going to have to pay 40% of the difference between your paycheck and your spouse's paycheck. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter who's at fault in the divorce. He could have cheated on you or you could have cheated on him. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. You're going to have to pay it. Yes or no?
Yes. That's
Wow.
exactly right.
Wow. All right, folks, have we gotten this thing squared away here? Just get somebody on the line. How about that? You just tell me who it is, get somebody on the line, and I'll talk to them. Line 1. Listen, line 5, okay. Kalina.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, thank God you're on the line, Kalina. I've been waiting for you forever. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well now that I actually have a human being on the other side chatting with me. So, Kalina, you married? Not married?
I just got married.
Oh, congratulations.
My husband, thank you. My husband collects Social Security, not Social Security disability, but Social Security. He has an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old. The mom has went for child support 11 years ago and was denied because that's his only means of, funds.
Uh-huh.
Now that we're married, his child support papers on my doorstep. She want to take me for child support.
So, wait a minute. Literally, it says you as the defendant, blank, whatever her...
No. It goes to him.
Uh-huh.
But that's what she's stating. I know I can't get it from him, but he's married now, and she works, and her money is his money.
Okay, so that's a good question. Irina, if you get married to somebody who already has kids, do you, as the new wife, have any financial obligation? Is your salary taken into consideration when support is at issue?
Yes and no. It depends. It depends on how big the difference is between the new spouse, who doesn't have a legal obligation, and the natural parent. For a long time, the courts have just discarded the income of the spouse, so not the parent of the child, but the spouse. But there was a recent opinion where the court actually said, well, you can't say I don't work, and so I don't have to pay child support when you're married to someone who is very rich, and that's why you don't work, because you're married to someone who's very rich, so you can pay support. So let's say you're married to someone like Donald Trump, and you make nothing, so you want to pay zero in support. You're not going to pay what Donald Trump would pay. Obviously, his child support obligation would be enormous, but you would pay some reasonable amount, maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000. I'm just pulling this out of my sleeve. But basically, yes and no. If it's a normal income, something that's a middle class, then no, it would not be considered. But if it's if you're making a lot of money, then yes, it could affect.
All right, Kalina, are you Donald Trumpette? Are you making are you making $1 billion cash?
Well, no, I'm not, but I guess considering I only have one dependent, my daughter, and I work 2 jobs, I did go into a new tax bracket.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's always good to go into a new tax bracket, especially when... Yeah? But, okay.
And I have been willing to give her for the kids. It exceeds more than he can give. This was a conversation I can pick up in the background. That just wasn't good enough.
Right. Well, as Irina says, chances are, since your earnings are not extraordinarily high, that your income will not be considered in this process. And they'll rely strictly. But here's the thing I'm not sure about, Irina. Maybe 11 years ago things were different when this gentleman was taken for support. But if he's on Social Security, shouldn't his children then would receive Oh no, he's not on Social Security disability. He's just an older guy, and he's on Social Security.
If he receives
Right.
SSI, then he would not pay child support.
Okay.
But if he's on disability, he still might.
Well, but the thing is, if he was on disability, his kids get paid anyway. There's a separate check for the children of
Right.
somebody who's disabled. But if he's just of retirement age, well, the Colina sounds like she's 20, then he wouldn't have the obligation to pay child support if he's just collecting his Social Security pension check.
Well, you can still
Right.
pay child support from Social Security.
So if you're making, let's say, $1,800 a month on Social Security because you worked and had a good job your whole life, the court could say, hey, you got to give a little bit of that to your child.
Right. Only if you're on SSI. In
Right.
that case, you
He's
automatically
on SSI from being hurt.
Say that again?
He's collecting SSI because he's hurt.
So he would not pay. All he needs to do if he is taken for child support is to bring that document that shows that he's currently on SSI.
And his kids, if he's on SSI because he's hurt, his kids should be getting some child support directly from SSI. Their disability portion. All right. In any event, Kalina, I don't think your salary is going to take any part in this process. Of course, here's the bottom line. You all need to have representation. If you go in there with no attorney, bad things happen. You have to have representation. You got to spend some money. This isn't like a car accident where you come in and you get 40%, and you get a contingent fee. This is, you got to pull cash out of your pocket to pay a lawyer so that you can have proper representation so you don't pay. Because, strange things can happen when you don't have representation, and especially if the other side does.
Right. See, I get free legal services through my job, so that'll be taken care of.
Good. Well, then you'll have it. You'll have representation, and it shouldn't be a problem. Thanks for calling Court Radio, Kalina.
Thank you. Have a nice morning.
You too, dear. Bye now. All right. Let's talk to Carol from Overbrook on line 1. Eric.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you, Carol?
I'm doing good, and I hope to be doing better and have peace of mind after I ask you my question.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it something? Wait, you go to the lawyer, but you don't really even want to ask the question because you're afraid of the answer.
Yes, and afraid that I haven't asked the question in 20 years that I need to ask you now.
Okay, well, that's I got to take a pregnant pause there for that one. And 20 years you've been waiting to ask me this. Hold on, let me sit down. Okay. Go ahead, Carol. Lay it on me.
I've been married for about 20 years. When I met my husband, he had a daughter from a previous relationship, not a marriage, but a previous relationship. We have 2 children. He now owns a home. Well, we own a home, but technically my name is not on the property. What I wanted to know, what's been on my mind, is if something were to happen to him, would we then have to share our only asset, which is the house? Would I have to share that with his child from a previous relationship?
Of course.
And I may...
Yes.
Of course?
Of course. Of course you will. The house isn't in your name, so don't tell me about the technically thing. It's not in your name. Therefore, it is his individual asset. He dies, it has to be probated. And in the circumstance that you describe, you would get the first, I think, $30,000 of the value, and then the balance would be split half for you and half for his child from a previous marriage or relationship.
And our children as well?
No, I don't think your children in that circumstance would take. It is just because this other child is not your child.
So I always thought that if a spouse is left surviving, that the spouse gets the house.
Well, you thought wrong. I mean, that's it. You thought wrong. Here, listen, I'm going to solve your problem. He's not dead yet, right?
No.
Okay. Let him live a long and prosperous life. In the meantime, on Monday morning, you should call my office and talk to Saul. Okay, because Saul will work it out for you, and either you can get your name on this deed very easily as his spouse, and then it would all go to you. Okay, if you owned it in the entireties, which is a
Yes.
Okay, well then, will he sign a deed and put this property in both of your names?
Well, let me say this here, Dean. The only reason that my name is not on the property is one reason, because I owe student loans, and we decided it would be best for my name not to go on the deed because of that.
Well, then you better have a will. Okay, you better have a will where the property is granted to you in the will. Then you're safe. But the way you have it now, no will and no name on the property, you're going to share it.
All right then. Call Sal. He will be able to help us write up the proper will.
Yep, 215-227-2727. You call him and tell him you heard about him on Court Radio.
All right. I got the answer.
Yeah.
A little late than what I thought, but it's not too late.
Exactly. Is he still breathing? It's not too late.
Yes.
All right. Be nice to him.
Keep
him going for one more day.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Bye, Carol.
Bye-bye.
215-227-2727. We're going to break. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
The following is a paid program brought to you by My Philly Lawyer. The views and opinions expressed are those of the sponsor and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the station and its management.
Need more legal answers? Here's more Court Radio with your host, Dean Weitzman.
Good morning and welcome back. I'm still Dean Weitzman, and this is Court Radio, a place where you get to ask your legal questions one at a time every Sunday morning. I wake up and come up here so I can chat with my Court Radio listeners. And today is Sunday, October the 23rd. We are blessedly, we are a couple weeks and a day or so away from the election. And then we can put it behind us. We can look forward to a new day dawning in America. A day where individuals are honored by the courts and by the legislature. And corporations pay their fair share. And people don't pay taxes for 18 years who are billionaires. And life is good. Yes, this is coming. Folks, it's coming. And then we're all going to get together and sing Kumbaya, and we're going to dance in the streets. Everything's going to be good. We're going to love each other. We're going to take care of each other. Those who are sick, they're going to go to mental institutions, and they'll be taken care of too. And we won't be sticking people in prisons willy-nilly constantly who are really just sick drug addicts who need help. Yes, it's going to be a new dawn coming to America in 2 weeks and 2 days. Get out and vote. Vote, vote, vote. But don't vote more than once. I know that's common in Philadelphia. Ha ha ha. Just kidding. Just kidding. There's no voter fraud that really would invalidate an entire election. Maybe 2 or 3 bad votes, but that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Are you going to vote?
Yes. Okay.
Irene is going to vote. You want to share who you're going to vote for?
No.
Okay. All right. Is it somebody who's an assaulter?
No, it's just one way or another. I am not going to share because there's so much fighting over.
Yeah, I know.
And it's each and every time people vote. So
listen, I have listeners who are ardent Trump supporters, right? They call in here. I've heard you. I've listened to you. I believe that their intentions are good. I just think that they've got the wrong horse in this race. 215-227-2727. We've got callers calling in probably on domestic relations issues, but let's talk to Ronald on line 2 from Mount Airy. Hey, Ronald, welcome to Court Radio.
Hey.
Ronald.
For years.
You've been listening for a year?
Yes, every Sunday morning.
All right, well, guess what, Ronald? I'm going to get you a T-shirt, too. So stay on the line for Monica. We'll get your address when you and I are done with one another. But in the meantime, what is it you want to know today?
Okay, I'm gonna try to make this short and simple. I want to claim a small claims court for a towing company that towed my car illegally, and they damaged it. Okay. They won't pay. They won't pay me. They have an F rating with the Better Business Bureau, and I went back to the small claims court for procedural help. They basically told me, look, you're wasting your time, but you can go to the sheriff's department, file a claim, pay a fee, and they will go up to try to get your judgment. But the bottom line of that is they say if they don't pay, you have to wait 5 years and renew for another judgment.
Renew. It's a simple process. Every 5 years, you have to renew your judgment so that it stays alive. You don't have to go get a new one, but just renew it. But they are right in one regard, and this is the sad fact. It is very expensive and difficult to execute a judgment. That means to actually seize the property of the person, the deadbeat, the bad dude or company that has ripped you off. It's very expensive and time-consuming, and unless the judgment is for a substantial amount, and unless you can find real property owned by the person with whom you have a judgment, the chances of you actually collecting it are very small. Because at some point, the time, the cost, whatever is involved, you look at it and you go, it's not worth the money I'm going to get for it for me to do this.
It's kind of sad, Dean. It's kind of sad. I mean, what's the point of the small claims? The small claims court, I mean, they should change the law or something. It don't make sense.
There's small claims court works. Most of the time, you're dealing with somebody who is a legitimate company, okay, who would pay that debt, or you're dealing with somebody who owns a home, has property, and you can, lien the home. But there are times, probably every week, small claims court gives judgments out that don't get collected. And so, and it sounds to me like you're caught up, Ronald, in a situation. If that company's got an F rating and it's just a bad company and they're, it may be, did you get it against an individual or is it against the company?
Against the company.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you heard of People's Court, right?
Yep.
All right. About a week after I filed a claim, I got a letter from People's Court, but you can't go to People's Court if the other person don't show up or won't react to the case. I got a letter from People's Court for the same thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, if the other side doesn't want to play, you're not going.
Yeah, but these guys, and I'm in an apartment complex. They regulate this apartment complex.
And they're still out there.
They refuse to pay you.
Well, I would tell what if they're the approved towers for your apartment complex.
Yes.
I would provide your apartment complex with your judgment and tell them if they continue to allow somebody who doesn't have insurance and who avoids paying judgments, if they continue to allow them to operate, then they're going to become responsible for the damage done by their agent, this towing company. I think they have liability. So if you plead your case to your apartment complex, you're going to get this towing company thrown out.
Can I get you to help me with that, or what?
No, of course you can't. You can't get me to help you with that. You're going to pay me a lot of money to help you with that. I'm giving you the advice on Sunday morning. I woke up for you. I woke up early today to tell you what to do. You got to go do it now.
All right, so go to my
apartment complex and show them the judgment and tell them, listen, you've got people here who are towing cars who don't pay their judgment. They're rated F. Get them out of here, because if you don't and they damage a car, I'm going to make sure that whoever's car was damaged sues you too.
Okay, Dean.
All right. Have a great Sunday.
I'm going to get the T-shirt.
Yeah, stay on the line.
All right, Dean. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
I hate towing companies more than anything in the world.
Well, they get you when you're at your greatest need. You know, your car's broken down on the side of the highway. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to get it out of there. And here they come showing up. And you got to be careful because their little fees add up quickly, and their storage adds up quickly, and then all of a sudden you've got all these bills to pay, and you signed some blank piece of paper. Don't sign a blank piece of paper. I don't care how desperate you are. Make sure that the fees are listed there and that you're willing to pay whatever they're going to ask you to pay. All right? There you go. That's my 2 cents on towing companies. Let's talk to Gerald from Linwood, PA. Gerald, welcome to Court Radio.
Good morning, Dean.
Good morning, Gerald. How are you?
All right. I was in a situation in Philadelphia. I was married to my wife, and she died. We fell apart before she died, and she was one that likes to use credit cards and whatnot. And she had a lot of credit cards. When she died, her family, they took care of everything because I was kind of out of the picture. They arranged the funerals and everything. I had to sign, for the cremation. But I just wanted to know, is it possible that I could be liable for the credit cards?
Chances are the answer is no. As long as the credit card wasn't in a joint, both of your names, any credit card in her name only would be considered her individual debt.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'll tell you this, an interesting little fact. Let's say your wife owned some property that she actually had something of value. Do you know that even if she had a will leaving everything to her sister, brother, or whoever, that you as her legal spouse on the date of her death, you could have snatched 1/3 of her property? You could have just said, I'm taking my spousal share, 1/3 of her property goes to you, even though there was a will that gave it all to somebody else.
Wow, didn't know that. Because she did have a lot of jewelry and car. She had a car, and she had a lot of clothes that they took advantage of because I wasn't interested in any of that.
Yeah.
And
but if she had, I wouldn't be looking to get 1/3 of her dresses. But I mean, I think that if people don't understand, if you've got a spouse, and this now I'm going to segue back to Irina. If you have a spouse who you're divorced from forever, and you hate them, and you die, and they take 1/3 of your property, that should be aggravating. People need to finish the divorce or start and finish a divorce if you want to separate completely from your spouse.
Right.
Gerald, thanks for calling Court Radio, sir, and have a great Sunday.
Is also hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I called before, and you sent me a T-shirt, and a T-shirt, after I washed it, was a little too small for me. I was wondering, is there any way I can get a double X size
okay.
shirt?
Will a double X work now? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to stay off the Haagen-Dazs, and I'm going to send you a double X. But, you can't get any bigger because these shirts, I don't have a triple X. I had to stop at double X. I'm sorry.
Isn't that interesting that a man says, this is too small for me, just send me a bigger one? A woman never does that. A woman just says, oh, I'm not getting a bigger one. I'll just lose weight. And we say that for 10 years.
Yeah, well, we're realistic. So, All right, Gerald, stay on the line. Stay on the line.
Okay.
All right. Everybody's getting T-shirts today. It's unbelievable. We're having a run on T-shirts. But you know what? I mean, I love giving away our Court Radio T-shirts. I'm still waiting to see somebody on the streets of Philadelphia wearing one.
My boyfriend wears it.
Out in the wild, if I see you, you get $100. Line one. Let's talk to Shay. Shay?
Hello.
Good morning.
I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing wonderful, thanks. What's bringing you to Court Radio this morning? Something about
I have a
custody?
Custody question. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, I mean, short question, kind of. I currently have a custody date set for January. right now, we have kind of a mutual agreement right now that he can get my son 2 nights out the week, and it's Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Now, when I go to court, I really want every other weekend, simply because he doesn't have a car. It's unreliable for him to make sure my son gets to school on time. It'll just disrupt his schedule. So I would much rather him do every other weekend. Now, since right now we have a set agreement for 2 nights out the week, is that going to affect any decision that the court may make on my request for every other weekend?
Yes, it may, because courts like to keep the same schedule because they consider that it's good for the child to have consistency. So if you want to switch from 2 or 3 days per week to every other weekend, that might be a little bit of a shock for the child, so the courts will not like that. Of course, if you have an agreement or if you can find some kind of a compromise in between, considering he doesn't have a car or whatever the reasons are, you could just have the court sign that agreement and turn it into an order. But if you're going to be fighting over the days, then the court will have to decide. Is this in Philly?
It is, unfortunately.
And in January, you have the date before the judge or the conference?
It's the conference, the mediator.
Okay, so
here's the thing that I was just thinking about, and that is, you just made a statement earlier, Shay. You said that he doesn't have a car and he can't get him to school like I can. If he missed time from school on the days that his father needed to take him, that would be powerful evidence that your argument is legit. And even though it was the schedule up until now, it should change. So Irene is saying they're going to take the schedule into consideration, but they're going to take everything into consideration and ultimately arrive at a decision that the court believes is in the best interest of your son. And so that would be good evidence. On the other hand, if he never missed a day and your son got to school every single day, somehow dad arranged it, well, then your argument doesn't hold water.
How old is your son?
He's 2.
2?
Yeah, it's a really long, drawn-out thing. I mean, his dad just came back from North Carolina literally like 2 weeks ago, and he's now trying to see his son and have a schedule. I don't know where he lives. He's not telling me what his address is, and apparently he's renting a room, and he doesn't have in my opinion, he doesn't have a steady address or a stable address.
He has to tell you where he's staying. I mean, he has to be staying somewhere.
So you're entitled to know that. You're entitled to know that information in order to know that it's safe for your son. And so it sounds like you need this conference, and you probably should have representation at the conference. If you want to get what you want, if you want to get what you believe is in the best interest of your child, then you need somebody to make those arguments for you and to think about it. Like I just gave you a little hint, and I said you have to. I mean, if he's not getting to school, that's good. But if you make that argument and he got to school every day, it's not such a great argument. So you necessarily wouldn't want to make it. It's, in my opinion, when you're involved in it, even though you might have a sharp head and you know what you need to say, when you're involved, it doesn't come out the way you want it to. And that's why you should have independent representation who can help you through this challenging time.
Okay.
Shay,
right.
Listen, if you want to have Irina take a look at the case, all you got to do is give us a call at 215-227-2727 any day of the week. Irina will get back in touch with you and have a short conference over the phone, and then if you'd like, you can come in for a longer conference and pay a fee.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Shay, take care. Thanks for calling Court Radio.
Bye, Shay.
Thank you.
Folks, we'll be right back in 2 minutes after these sponsors' announcements.
The following is a paid program brought to you by My Philly Lawyer. The views and opinions expressed are those of the sponsor and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the station and its management.
Need more legal answers? Here's more Court Radio with your host, Dean Weitzman.
Good morning and welcome back. I'm Dean Weitzman. It's still October the 23rd. We're still 2 weeks and a day or so away from the election. Get out and vote. Please get out and vote. Don't assume that your candidate is going to win overwhelmingly and sit home that day, because that's the exact thing that the other folks would love to see happen, because certain people who are adamantly in favor of one candidate will get to the polls even if it's snowing that day or there's hail. And so you have to make sure you get to the polls so that you can represent your candidate and don't take things for granted. All right, that's my speech on get out the vote. In the meantime, let's talk to Sally from Willow Grove on line 2, Eric. Hi, Sally. Welcome to Court Radio.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Looking forward to the end of this election, aren't you?
My son is 20-plus years old, and I've never received any child support. Now, I did put his father in court, but his father went to North Carolina. They said they shipped everything down there, but North Carolina made no actions. Now, I gave them his Social Security number, everything.
Well, let me ask you. Wait, Sally. Let me ask you a question. Did you have a support order that he just didn't pay on?
No.
Okay, so there's no arrears right now. He doesn't owe you anything right now, correct?
Yeah. Well, he owes me because I took care of his child, our child.
Yes. You're right. But what I mean is, there's no debt that's legally enforceable at this point because you didn't have a child support order at some point in your son's life that said, hey, Dad, you owe $100 a week, and then he didn't pay it, but that $100 each week built up and built up and built up, and now the courts recognize that there's $47,000 owed to you. That's not your situation, though, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, so for some reason, you never got that court order because he took off, evaded you, went to North Carolina, and danced around down there, and the courts down there weren't very helpful for you. The question you have then, Sally, is now that your son's 20, can you go back and charge him for child support for the time when you were the only provider for your son?
Correct. Can I?
No. Unfortunately,
no.
Unless there is a support order. Yeah, just for all listeners to know, the child support starts on the date when you file the petition for support. So if you file it on the date when your child is born, that's when it starts. If you file when the child is 10, that's when it starts. If the defendant can't pay for, let's say, 2 years, it goes into arrears, all the amounts that he owes. And when he's able to pay, he will start paying. But if you've never filed, then he doesn't owe you anything, even though from a moral perspective it's different, but that's why you have the right to do it, and you didn't, unfortunately.
So I was not informed because I figured when I went to domestic relations to put in a child support report, I thought that was, okay, you're going and we're putting in a court order for him to pay child support. In actuality, I was just filing for child support, and somebody should have told me that, but okay.
Yeah, and so here, for you and for all the other listeners to Court Radio who are listening today, and they number into the tens of thousands, I say this is dangerous ground. You can't go it alone. I'm not trying to say that so that you come to my Philly lawyer and you're represented by Irina and we make a fee. I'm telling you that from my heart, that you can't do this alone. You must have representation if it is at all possible. You must find the time and the money to seek representation, because otherwise this is a very emotional time for you, and you're not going to know the law, and you're not going to know the arguments to make, and you're going to lose.
Correct.
Valuable assets. All right. I'm so sorry we had to give you bad news, but, better to get it over with now. Go on.
Yeah.
Lead your life.
And
be happy.
you're going to offer me a T-shirt for my sorrows.
For your sorrows, I will offer you a T-shirt. I'm gonna ask.
So nice.
I'm gonna ask Monica to get your address. And what line are we on there, Eric? We're on line 2. Okay. Stand by. We're going to get your information. Hold on. Thanks, Eric. Irina, you know how these hours go. I mean, it takes you 4 days by horse and buggy to get here from your home in the village where you live.
Well, it takes about 45 minutes.
Okay, 45 minutes, and then the hour goes like that.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you for coming back again.
You're welcome. It's always a great pleasure.
We'll see you soon. Folks, if you need representation on domestic relations, there's only one place to go. Give us a call at My Philly Lawyer, 215-227-2727. Your one-stop shop for all your legal needs in Philadelphia.